And
Mhm.
so I highly recommend, for those that are comfortable with it, that you show more than just the business side of you because people are actually buying you,
Mhm.
not necessarily what you have to offer.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Regan, and today's guest is Charmaine Brown, an executive coach and founder of Connections Consulting, where she helps organizations move from aspiration to execution in building inclusive, high-performing cultures. With over 28 years of corporate leadership experience in strategic HR, diversity and inclusion, and organizational development, Charmaine now empowers women professionals to transition with confidence from corporate careers to entrepreneurship through her Corporatepreneur to Entrepreneur programs. She brings a unique blend of strategic insight and human-centered leadership, helping clients embrace their vision, lead with authenticity, and create lasting impact in their careers and communities. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Charmaine.
Thank you so much, Regan, for having me. I love when people read my bios. Sometimes it can get exhausting, but you did a really good job in short and concise.
It was a pleasure going through it, and thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure for us to have you on the podcast.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn a little bit more about the beginning of your journey as a coach. So when it comes to you becoming a coach or starting your coaching business, what inspired you to do so, to take that step?
Yeah. So I know I only look 25, but I have been in the corporate world for almost 30 years. And I realized that kind of through my journey in the corporate world, the most fulfilling thing I experienced was not necessarily the titles, the accolades, the awards, all the really cool things. It was really the moments I had to mentor, to guide and help others to really step into their own power. And I realized that when I transitioned out of my corporate career into entrepreneurship 10 years ago now, I'm actually celebrating 10 years as an entrepreneur come this October. I had learned so much in my corporate world. And then the transition into entrepreneurship, these past 10 years, I've learned so much. But one of the things that I realized was that I could be helpful to women because of my experiences, not just over these past 10 years, but the many years that I worked in the corporate space. And it was important for me to give back in a way that supported women who, quite truthfully, were struggling in the corporate world, in the corporate space, and understanding that maybe their mindsets were really challenged about their ability to move from an idea into execution. Like, I can actually own a business. I want to own a business, but I don't know exactly how to do it. And so I realized that a lot of the people who reached out to me were women, and especially women of color, asking me how I did it. And so a lot of my mentoring and guiding and coaching in the corporate space just really kind of transitioned easily into this world of coaching. And because I had that same experience that they were looking to do, it just made it easy, and it just felt like the right thing for me. I will also tell you that, I have been in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space for many, many years. That was my corporate career. I was a chief diversity officer for a number of years. And then I started my business, my consulting business in the DEI space. And prior to a lot of the changes that we have going on right now, a couple years ago, I made the decision that I was exhausted. I was an exhausted DEI practitioner who was ready to align more with my passion, which really was the coaching space. So I took all of the experiences that I had in the coaching, in my consulting world, in my corporate experience, and kind of bundled it all into this coaching space.
And so Connections Consulting as an entity is mostly focused on inclusion and diversity, while the other business, corporatepreneur to entrepreneur, is mostly focused on coaching, right?
Yeah. So think about it this way. And I obviously I've hung my shingle for Connections Consulting over the past 10 years in the DEI space. And even before all the legislative changes, the government, doing what it's doing, I started to have the questions about, what do I want to really do in the next cycle of this business, right? And it really was more of my internal calling that said, you know what? I'm ready to start helping individuals to build their own systems and their own structure, as opposed to working with organizations on building their systems and their structures around this DEI space. And so that's what really led me to formalizing coaching, because I was doing it, just not monetizing it, as they say. I was constantly being asked the question, how did you do it? How did you start? What do you suggest? I'm thinking about, and I decided to turn it into a full-time business.
So when it comes to it being a full-time coaching focused business, it's been around 3 years, you would say.
It has. Started off, interestingly, and I think a lot of coaches can relate to this. You have so many people asking you the question, how did you do it? I need help. I'm really thinking about starting my own business. And I remember my first time coming out into the world as an official. I did a webinar, right? The typical thing that you do a webinar, you share all this information, and then you provide an offer. I had maybe 20 people who signed up to attend. 3 people showed up. 1 person signed up, but it was a really close friend, right? So my little feelings was hurt.
Well, that's 30% there.
Yeah. But at the time, I was like, wait a minute, where are all these people who said they need my help, right? And so my little feelings were hurt. And I said, maybe this coaching thing is not for me. Now, obviously, I think a lot of people might have had that experience. And so it took me several months to finally come back out of the gate. And when I did, obviously, consistency was important, being able to speak to my target audience better, like all the things, the intricacies of putting your shingle out and speaking to your audience and being consistent about it started to become more of a thing for me. But yeah, it's been 3 years. And what I have enjoyed so much about this experience thus far is the idea of really helping women see that there is more for them. I think about my corporate experience, and to be honest, I had an amazing corporate journey. I really did. And at the same time, I dealt with a lot of challenges. And being in the role that I was in as a chief diversity officer, I dealt with a lot of challenges related to people of color, women, individuals with disabilities, just all the challenges that they experience in the workplace. And one of the things that really makes me feel good about the work that I'm doing today is that I am creating a pathway for women who have really been their confidence, their self-esteem, the many degrees and certifications that they've received, trying to climb the corporate ladder and constantly being hit with no's can really cause individuals to lose faith and to lose confidence in themselves. And I create a pathway for them to be able to come back into their confidence, to build their self-esteem and own something for themselves, and to build something that is meaningful, impactful, and profitable. So that is ultimately why I love doing what I do right now.
Amazing. And I wanted to dial a little bit in on the ideal client profile. So we did talk about them being women. They could be also women in color. Now, how would you specifically describe this? Are there also men?
Yeah.
How would you describe the ideal client profile if they're listening to
Yeah.
this?
So my first male client was my husband. He owns a cybersecurity practice now. So he's been my only male client. However, I do work, my ideal client is a high achieving woman. I love working with women of color, but I work with all types of women, but high achieving women that are most likely still in their corporate positions. They're ready to step into entrepreneurship, but they just don't know exactly how to take the leap. They don't know how to get started. And I really help them get clear on the vision. I help them get clear on a profitable strategy. And I help them actually launch. And we launch with, smartly. So a lot of times I think people assume that because I'm an entrepreneurship coach, that I am expecting you to leave your job today. Right? Just shut it down, put your resignation letter in and go all in on your entrepreneurship journey. And that's not true at all. I do have some clients that have done that, but quite truthfully, I work with lots of clients who are wanting to set a plan for themselves so that they can feel comfortable and confident with eventually leaving. And so that's who I primarily work with.
Yeah, interesting, because leaving immediately could be a hit or miss sometimes.
It is. It is. Now, I left for very different reasons. My husband at the time was working for an accounting firm slash, consulting firm, and he was asked to relocate. So we used to live in Cleveland, Ohio, which is where I built my career. And we moved to Detroit, Michigan to further his career. And so I made the decision to leave my corporate career, even though I had planned to look for another chief diversity officer position when I got the family settled and everything. But entrepreneurship called, and, I had the opportunity to take some risk financially, right? But that's not everyone's story. And so I understand that, and I do not encourage my clients to walk away until they have had successes in their business and that they can see some sustainability financially and obviously within the business itself.
How would you describe, right now we just talked about the ideal client profile. How would you describe the engagement they have with you? Is it like one-on-one coaching? Are there some sort of programs that they go through? How would you describe that?
I actually do one-on-one coaching right now. I think especially these high achieving women, there's a little bit of privacy that they want to have, right? Because they don't want the risk of someone sharing that they're thinking about starting their businesses. I also love one-on-one coaching because that's when I get to just roll my sleeves up and work with them individually to help them kind of shift from, and we kind of do work in 3 parts. We work on mindset because, listen, I can help you build a strategy. Hands down, I can help you build a plan. But if your mind is not right, if you still are struggling with mind trash, as my one dear friend who is a speaker's coach, she calls it the hag in the attic. So if we are struggling with all of those things, it is very difficult for you to actually execute successfully your business. And so we work a lot on mindset. Then we build the business itself. All right. And then I actually have the third component, which is the implementation. So oftentimes I see coaches that'll help you build the plan, but they don't necessarily help you figure out how do you actually execute. What's the foundation that you need? If you're starting a coaching business, what systems do you need to have in place? What contracts do you need to have in place? What people resources? I'm a huge advocate of outsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
So I use, the Upworks and Fiverr for a lot of the work that I do. And quite truthfully, my clients have also benefited from that model to start, right? And I've even, in the beginning of my consulting career, I did a lot of bartering. And so I help my clients think about all the different ways that they can actually get the resources that they need so that they can start with a really solid footing.
And is there, like, to have a meaningful change for them, do you think that there is a minimal amount of time that they kind of like work with you? I'm assuming that to see that change, probably there is some time there.
Yeah. So the program that my one-on-ones go through is a 12-week program. And there is, again, kind of broken into these 3 buckets with 3 additional sessions afterwards that are just on, answering questions, troubleshooting, things of that nature. And what I have really enjoyed, about 20% of my clients keep me on,
Mm-hmm.
as a sounding board to run things past. And I love that because it means that they trust me and they see me as someone that's part of the team,
Mm-hmm.
but has their best interest at heart.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this question is mostly going to be interesting to other coaches who are listening, is when it comes to marketing, what marketing channel have you seen working very well for you?
Well, I have an extensive network. I can thank my corporate time for much of that. And so I get a lot of referrals based on relationships. But I will also tell you, I am very active on social media with Facebook and Instagram and working on getting more active. But I have been very successful with the referrals, with social media. And I will be honest with you that with my social media, specifically with Instagram and Facebook, I don't just talk about my coaching business. I don't just talk about my consulting practice. I don't just show myself speaking at events. I don't just show myself, interacting with my clients. I actually show the other side of me, the Shar. So Shar is the name that my friends and family call me. On any given day, you may see me with my hair in a bun, no makeup on, drinking coffee or cocktail,
Mm-hmm.
talking about my family, showing my family, our empty nest syndrome that we're going through now, as well as my dog. So I show all of me, and that is important. That's a brand that I built prior to starting this coaching business. And what I found is me being truly my whole self on social media has actually helped me with increasing my coaching business clients and revenue. And
Mm-hmm.
so I highly recommend, for those that are comfortable with it, that you show more than just the business side of you, because people are actually buying you,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily what you have to offer.
Yeah. Yeah, they and even in this podcast, what we've seen is some of these individuals are listening to understand, like, how you speak, what your energy is like. Do I feel like you'd be a great coach to work with me? And it's like, want to get to know you.
Yeah.
Hopefully that saves you some discovery calls if they get to listen to this podcast. But
Yeah,
yeah,
oftentimes I'm hearing, I've been following you for a long time. I hear a couple things. I love your energy. I love your humor. I love, how you're so open and transparent. So there are times that you will see me, maybe shed a tear because I'm going through something. And I'll never forget. I'll share this much. So a couple years ago, my father had to have a heart transplant. My uncle passed away. My best friend's husband passed away, all within a small window of time. And because I'm so transparent on social media, people knew that. People were, sharing and sending prayers and all the things. And one day, after having a therapy session, I was feeling like I wasn't being truthful with my audience because I've been pretty open about having anxiety. I naturally have just dealt with that for years. But now I'm in full blown depression. And I was so nervous to say that, but I felt like I had to because I've shared all these other things. And it was almost a weight lifted off of me because when I did that, the engagement was so high, and not just with women, but also with men sharing their own journey with depression and anxiety. And it was such a powerful moment that it reminds me of the need to be who you are completely in order for people to understand, like, and trust and know you. And so I think all of those quote unquote deposits that I've made over the years around that has really come back and have been very fruitful for me in my coaching business.
And it makes sense. So a lot of people kind of resonated, not
Yeah.
just what you were posting earlier, like the good days, but also the bad days as well.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense. And where is it headed right now? Meaning your coaching business.
Yeah.
Do you have any goals for the next 1 to 3 years that you're working towards?
I do. I got some BHAG goals, big, hairy, audacious goals. So, coaches always need coaches. And I have a coach who has really been helping me on the consulting side. But a lot of what I'm doing on the consulting side is helping me on the coaching side. So I was challenged with coming up with a 3-year goal. And so my 3-year goal is I want to touch and impact 1,000 women by the end of 2027 with revenue of $1 million plus. But I got to tell you, money and those numbers and those goals are super, super important. And not a but an and. I really want to create sustainable impact. And I really want to make sure that I can show and prove what's possible when women lead with authenticity, abundance thinking, independence, and clarity. And those are the pillars for my Simply Living Me mindset. And so for me, that's really where the value comes in what I'm super excited to do and impact those numbers and those people.
It's an
Yeah,
exciting goal.
it
Being able
is.
to help 1,000 women. It's a beautiful goal. And so where do you
But
see like
well, I will say this too, Regin, it's not going to happen with one-on-ones. I'm going to tell you that.
Thank-
So there's, group coaching programs and retreats and, things that really will touch in various ways. But yeah, I just want to make it clear. I'm not doing that through one-on-ones only.
It does make sense. So basically you're trying to expand also like on the offers that you're working on. So we have one-on-one now, you want to develop the group coaching. Do you already do retreats, or is that something you're working towards
Yeah. So
building?
I did a retreat last year called the Simply Launch Retreat. And it was perfect for women who had an idea, but needed some support in getting that idea out onto paper. And so it was fantastic. Actually, I did 2 of them last year. Unfortunately, this year, timing with my daughter, with graduating high school and prepping for college and all the things that we had to do, I wasn't able to plan one this year, but I will be bringing it back online next year. And I'm super, super excited about that.
Nice. We've done those two. So like in May we did one in Tulum in Mexico, and yeah, that is how it felt. It was a lot of but there was also like it's like being in paradise, but also being able to move forward with your goals. So it's not like you're
Exactly.
feeling in vacation where you're like also feeling, oh, is this am I getting stuck? Well, if you have a job, that doesn't feel that way, but if you have a business, kind of feels a little bit weird to be
Yes.
away from work. Yeah, that was very powerful. And now we're doing another one in Phuket. It's going to be on October this year. So
I
we're
would
looking
love
forward
to
to that.
come.
Yeah, we'll
I've
be
been
happy to have you. And
Thailand's on the list.
yeah, I'll be there too. I wasn't on the one in Tulum because I was already in Asia. It would have been very hard for me to get all the way to Tulum, but
Yeah.
I'll be on the one in Phuket.
Uh,
Yeah. So right now, when thinking about your goal of helping 1,000 women, developing the group coaching and doing more retreats, where do you see like the challenges with that? Like, where's the
yeah.
bottleneck? Or let's say there might be a couple, or there may be many bottlenecks, but like, what is that one thing that you feel like you're working on right now?
Yeah. Scaling without burnout.
That's a
Huge.
big one.
Oh my gosh. But you know what? I've reached a place where I know that my model works.
Hmm.
And so now it's time to automate.
Hmm.
So I'm exploring different ways to automate some of my processes and some of my systems, some of my tools to make it a little easier, which would then kind of create opportunities for different offers at different stages. So I know that, you know, this building process really does require more systems and more automation in place. And so it's a bottleneck, it's a challenge, but that's what we're working on right now.
Hmm. And when it comes to like automations, just like you mentioned, so there's a lot of admin work right now. Do you have any like help? Do you get any help from any team members or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a virtual assistant who is incredibly knowledgeable about the system that I use. I'm using Kajabi.
Hmm.
And so that has been a huge, huge help. But she also is incredible with, you know, helping me once I come up with concepts and ideas. She helps me put the bones and the meat to it. So that's been incredibly helpful. I also have outsourced a team to help me with some social media marketing. And I have folks who help me with my podcast, you know, the back end of things. So,
Hmm.
yeah, but I am that person who is very big on outsourcing.
Yeah, it's the way to scale through that and automation together, especially like now with the AI. There's a lot of admin work that can be eliminated.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to like job, do you have like also a course that you host there, or is it just your CRM?
So, I do have a couple of courses that I played around with, tinkered with. So, I have a Simply Launch, which is kind of derived from the retreat, but I created it prior to. That includes videos and a workbook that is, you know, self-led. And then I also just sell the workbook itself on the website, but it's been mostly the one-on-one coaching that I've been doing. So I'm really excited to leverage more of the system
Hmm.
with making sure that I'm creating the right kinds of opportunities for
Hmm.
clients and for future clients. I wanted to be very careful about creating a ton of things. I
Hmm.
wanted to be able to master and make sure that my methodology worked. And so now I'm at a point where it does work. And
Hmm.
so now I can build off of that. But I had to get real clear that I didn't need to be creating 500 million things. Stick with one or two things and see those things through, and then you can evolve from there. So I'm at the point now where I'm ready to evolve a little bit.
Cool. And I also wanted to talk to you about investments. You obviously have invested, you have a team member, like a virtual assistant. All of these systems are also can be considered investments. And you mentioned also a coach. What would you say have been some investments that you feel very good about that either had a good return for you or you feel like you've learned a lot?
Yeah.
And that could be any of these investments that I mentioned. It could also be coaching, like actually coaching programs, just like we mentioned. Anything really that comes to mind. And what is an investment that you've done that you don't feel so good about, that you potentially would have preferred to have avoided, if there's anything like that?
Yeah. So I'm going to start there first because it ties into the journey, my coaching journey. In the beginning, I was a member of We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. It was such a perfect first step as I was thinking about this coaching space, and loved kind of the methodology that, eliminating the money shame and knowing that you can have any and everything you want. You just, need to use your expertise and your knowledge, and you can build, wealth. You can build revenue. And then I got to the point where it wasn't enough, right? It was really good in the beginning because it taught me some frameworks and things that I needed to just kind of get started. An interesting thing happened, and maybe some of the coaches out there can relate to this. When you get started in something new, you think you're supposed to have all these certifications and qualifications and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is there are lots of coaches out there who have certifications, and there are coaches out there who don't, but have years and years of experience and expertise in doing the work. And one of the things that I learned was that I had everything that I needed to impact the women who I want to impact. And that the certification in of itself was not the only pathway to success. And it taught me, after I served, 9 women in that first year, and was reminded by some of my friends who are coaches who didn't have clients, that you're doing pretty darn good, right? So I had to understand that, not every coaching program is the right coaching program for you. Not every certification is the right certification. That in fact, it is important to also lean on your own expertise and trust that you have what you need, and what you don't, you'll figure out. So I started realizing that here were some areas that I needed to work on. And so I found those coaches to specifically work on that particular thing. So I found a branding coach, someone that helped me figure out my branding. She was great. I attended her conferences. I got what I needed from her. I found another coach who was very good in business strategy. Even though that's what I do, it's hard to do it for yourself, right? And I'm sure people can relate to that too. You need a coach to help coach you through your coaching situation. But I will tell you the biggest thing, and I've done the masterminds, and I've paid money to do all kinds of things. But the most impactful thing that I have done is built my own business bestie squad. I have 2 other business owners who do very different types of businesses. We support each other. We hold each other accountable. We literally talk every single day on Marco Polo. We use the Marco Polo app.
Yeah.
And that group has helped me tremendously. And it's a squad of women who we're all at different stages of our business, but yet we get to support each other in so many differing ways. And so for me, that has been the most valuable investment of time and energy and relationships that I've had thus far.
And you've created that on your own?
Yeah, I did. And I encourage all of my clients to do the same thing. So one of the things that I know to be true is that when you're in the corporate space, and this is true for me and it's true for many, you don't necessarily build a community of entrepreneurs, right? Your relationships are typically people who work for other companies, usually even your personal community, they work for other people. I
Mm-hmm.
was the same way. I didn't have an entrepreneurship community.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that we experience that my friends who work for companies don't understand, right?
Yeah.
Just because they don't have to. And so I had to actually create a community of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of doing that, a couple of us really connected, wanted to support each other. We were all in this phase of wanting to grow our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, even though one's an attorney, one owns real estate, but she also focuses on rest for business owners. So
Mm-hmm.
she does lots of retreats and things like that. And we just work really well together and support each other and troubleshoot and do all the things. So I would highly encourage, if you coaches out there don't
Mm-hmm.
have a squad, that's a number one in my book opportunity.
Absolutely. I really like that advice. And it's interesting that they're also in different industries. So it's not just in coaching,
Mm-mm.
because sometimes like you might have very similar issues, and it's
Yeah,
not as interesting as like having, well, actually being an entrepreneur, some of the issues are similar in different
yeah,
industries still.
very
But
much so.
but it's interesting to also get to learn from their perspectives of working in different areas
Yeah,
and like work on ideas together as well that are
yeah.
beyond what you would have thought of on your own.
We have what we call Genius Days
Hmm.
once a month, where we get together for a full day. And usually it is very specific to something that we're working on that we need input from each other.
Hmm.
And that has also been incredibly helpful. So highly encourage doing Genius Days.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Charmaine. And my final question is, what advice, and you already shared a good one, but what advice would you give to other coaches like yourself? And you don't have to think about who gets this advice. You can think about this advice as something you're sending to yourself.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to coaches like you are trying to scale their impact?
Yeah. So I would say first get crystal clear on who your target audience is. I've
Hmm.
learned you cannot serve everybody. And the more you niche down, the more you're able to actually speak the language to attract those that you want. I would also say don't be afraid to invest in yourself, but invest in the right things. Like get clear on what it is you really need and then invest in that, as opposed to this kind of blanket, resource need. I think, getting super clear. Is it marketing that you need support in? Is it business development? Is it branding? Is it developing frameworks, right? Getting really specific on what your need is and then going for that. And then lastly, I would say, remember you are the brand. People are going to buy you before they buy your coaching services. And so
Hmm.
think about that in the context of how you show up out there for others to see who you are and what you're all about before they buy your offer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Charmaine. Thank you so much for coming to our podcast today. For anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, they can go into LinkedIn, look up Charmaine Brown. They'll be able to find your profile. Is there any other way they could reach out to you?
Yeah. So obviously on Instagram as simply Charmaine B, and on Facebook at Charmaine Brown.
Cool. Thank you, Charmaine. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.